What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Hot Tag Wrestling Show here on the RTB Philly Sports Network, presented by SeatGeek. I figured we would start off on our main platform here with this whole ideal that we had about regarding the Monday Night Wars, and we're going to talk about it before we get into anything. However, just want to introduce myself as we all know if you're watching on this network or on YouTube anywhere else. I'm Chris T. Francesco, and as always, is my co-host here on the Hot Tag Wrestling Show, Mr. George Rogers. George, what's going on, man?
Chris, I'm doing good. It's
good.
It's September.
Yes.
There's a slight chill in the air, but it's September in New Jersey, which means it'll be 30 degrees in the morning and 80 at noon. So I'm completely unprepared at all times to go outside.
Always unprepared.
Completely.
Is Tim Horton selling pumpkin spice yet? And have you got
Tim Horton started 3 weeks ago. If you were a member.
Oh.
Because you could get if you were a member on the app, you could order because it was available to you on the menu. If you went inside the restaurant, it's a donut shop, restaurant. If you went inside, you weren't able to get it because you could only order it on the app. Now, I think last week they started putting starting it all the time. Dunkin' started theirs last Wednesday.
Yes, I tasted that already.
And I'm proud to say that it's a colossal failure.
It's not good.
It used to be better.
It used to be very much better. Yeah.
Now, have you had their apple cider donut?
Yes, I've had their apple cider donut. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine was stale.
Well, that's because it was probably from 2 days before.
At 5:30 in the morning on a Wednesday. So that was great. Just opened a half hour ago.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that those were open in the truck on their way to that particular Dunkin' Donuts. So I will not be getting their apple cider donut. I instead will just drive my ass to Johnson's and get myself real apple cider donuts.
I was going to say to you, the only real place to get apple cider donuts is Johnson's Farm.
Yeah. So what are you saying? You're saying we should go this weekend?
I think we should.
I mean, Dean's going to be in California. I'll need something to do.
That's fine. I'm here.
Yeah, until you decide to go on vacation. You're like, oh,
I'm not going on any vacations.
I went to Ocean City on a whim.
On a whim. Yeah, but no vacations for me. So we are here to debut our brand new series, which is going to run, God willing, for like 5 years. So here's the deal. We are going to, week after week, we are going to come on here and we are going to give a full review on the Monday Night Wars in order. So tonight, as it were, we are 2 days away from the 29th anniversary of the debut episode of WCW Monday Nitro.
29 years.
29 years ago.
9 years.
Can you believe? We're big nostalgia guys. You,
huge.
Dean, and myself.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to think like this was 29 years ago?
Well, that's the thing. I was talking with Dean the other day, of course, and I was like, "Oh, like 20 years ago." And talking about the 90s. He's like, "Well, 20 years ago was 2000s." I looked at him and I was like, "You can shut your mouth," because 20 years ago is always going to be the 90s to me.
It's like that. It's like that. I think it's like a meme that came out where wrestling fans think that 15 years ago was Austin and Rock, and 25 years ago was Hogan and Macho. Where it's like, no, it was 25 years ago was Austin and Rock, and over 35 years ago was Macho and Hogan. So it's just so crazy to think where the wrestling business is today in relation to when we're going to be talking about here and way back in 1995. George, I'm sure obviously we both of us were watching pro wrestling in 1995. In this time, I was 2 months away from turning 9 years old. I think you were probably 10 at this point, right?
Yeah, correct.
So you were 10 at this point. Did you know about Monday Nitro? Or did you even know about WCW at that time?
I knew about WCW because of WCW Saturday Night because it aired
Yep.
6:05 on the Superstation TBS
Yep.
for the lay folks. So I knew about it.
Right.
And I knew that they were doing a Nitro. I didn't catch it live the first time.
Right.
Uh, I had a pretty strict bedtime growing up. My dad was very
Mm-hmm.
like tough as nails, and you got to go to bed a certain time. So
Mm-hmm.
I missed a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, thanks to the network and Peacock and soon to be Netflix starting next year, we're able to go back and revisit all these things that
Yeah.
we maybe missed the first time or
Yep.
something we had forgotten about. And it's great to kind of go back and relive that.
Yeah,
Because
for sure. And
you can also see, like, especially when we watch Nitro, especially when we watch this Nitro, like how dated it is to the 90s.
yeah.
Like there's
Yep.
people in the mall.
Yeah.
That's not a thing.
Right.
Well, maybe
Right.
Deptford, but they're not in Morristown. I'll tell you that much.
Right. And and I look at it this way. Of course, we all know, as if you are a wrestling fan, um, there's documentaries that have been made, very good ones, including on the WWE Network on Peacock, is the Monday Night War story, which is terrific. I urge anyone interested in this to go on to Peacock, the WWE Network, and watch the Monday Night War documentary series that they made.
I bought that DVD when it came out.
Yeah, as did
Too.
I, for
Yeah.
sure. So look, what we're going to talk about here is nothing different than what you've probably have already known. Obviously, it's been 30 years almost. However, my point of doing all of this is going to be the first time really that, 30-year fans such as George and myself are going to sit down and actually watch these shows almost side by side on a weekly in order basis. And, we've always been told, and we always obviously remember back in the day, how really difficult it was to watch a WWF in 93, 94, 95, and parts of 96. And how Monday Nitro was the A wrestling promotion in the world, and it was for 83 consecutive weeks, which we'll obviously get into that. But my goal was to watch this with you and review both shows and kind of look back and say, you know what, look at it differently and say, hey, was Raw really that bad? And was Nitro really that good? So I really wanted to sit here and go over each show. So what we're going to do is tonight, we're going to review the first ever Monday Nitro because, of course, luck would have it, as we do this show, Raw did not have a show. So Raw decided that, they were going to take a week off and the beginning of September of 95 here.
No, wasn't that the Westminster Kennel Club? Weren't they preempted because of that?
Yeah, but I mean, I can't find results of the show.
Because I think they just didn't air one rather than go on later. Because you
right.
figure at that time they didn't need to really worry about any competition.
Right.
They didn't start doing the preemption until WCW became a thing, and they're like, "Shit, we got legit Monday Night competition.
Yeah, right.
Let's just kind of roll with it and just air a show."
Right. So this week we're going to be just talking about the debut episode of Monday Nitro, and then beginning next week we will finally be able to cover a side-by-side look of Monday Night Raw versus WCW Monday Nitro. And then at the end of the show, we're going to give basically, we'll talk about what the ratings were. And then we're going to kind of just basically come on here and say, yeah, I think Nitro was better than Raw, or Raw was better than Nitro. So that's pretty much the basis and the premise of all of this. It's just one, it gives us it gives us content every week, which is great. And two, it's just really cool to go back in time, George, to see how good something was or how bad it was in terms of, in other words, hey, WCW kicked Raw's ass for a while. Is that really true? Other than the ratings, was Nitro really a better show? Was Raw really a better show? So we're going to get into that for sure. And I can't wait. So let's kind of really start it off here. Before we do that, George, is there anything that you want to talk about before we get rolling here?
Well, Bash of Berlin was Saturday.
That's right, it was. What was your favorite match?
Oh God, Randy Orton Gunther all
Agreed.
day, every day. You know, but I mean, there really wasn't a bad match. I like this 5-match PLE format that they're going with because it trims a lot of the fat from the pay-per-views. I mean, you and I came up in a time when pay-per-views were like 4 hours long, and like WrestleMania would be 6 hours long. Now you get 5 matches, you get like a tight 2.5, 3 hours, and it's great. So I mean, I really enjoyed it. That that crowd in Germany, hot like always. Those overseas crowds, like they're so starved for content that they just
Kevin commented and wants to let everyone know that George is here to talk to us about your car's extended warranty.
I own my car, so there is no extended warranty.
and what's his name? Of course, we know Dean is not too happy that you're doing this, and I guess not doing Multiverse. How dare you? But
Multiverse we do on Wednesdays now, so I don't know where this Monday shit came from. If you want to record Multiverse, you should have said something as opposed to sending me memes all day.
Angry George, or as red ass George is here. I love it. All right,
red baboon ass George.
All right, so let's get into it. September 4th, 1995, from the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota. WCW gives us the very first Monday Nitro. To kind of do a little bit of a note in the background here, Eric Bischoff, who was the president back then of WCW, he was attempting at the time to broker a TV deal for WCW overseas in China. Rupert Murdoch, for those of you who obviously probably know that name, he owned the TV network that they would use. Ted Turner, historically known to have hated Murdoch. So Eric was anxious. Yeah, so Eric was very anxious about pitching the idea of a TV show for wrestling for WCW. He felt he prepared a good argument. What he wasn't ready for historically, and this is very noted, Eric Bischoff was not at all prepared for Ted Turner to look him in the eye out of nowhere like an RKO and say, Eric, what do we have to do to compete with Vince? Eric thought on his feet and he answered, thought that it would get turned down immediately. Well, we need prime time. Monday Night Raw is for the most part live every Monday night on USA Network. And we have a dinky show on Saturday. And then we have our couple pay-per-views. And shockingly, Ted Turner agreed and gave Eric a time slot on Monday nights on the flagship network TNT, much to the chagrin of probably 99.8% of everybody in Turner Broadcasting at that time. So this meant,
and it never changed.
It never changed. So this meant, for the first time ever, WCW or a big pro wrestling company would go head to head with the WWF and Monday Night Raw. Many people thought it would split the wrestling audience. They underestimated the fact that WCW and the WWF had a separate and loyal fan bases. But it became known as what we all know as the Monday Night Wars. But on the first episode of Nitro, there was no opposite competition here, as we already noted before. The U.S. Open, by the way, preempted Monday Night Raw that week.
Okay.
So it was a perfect time for WCW to just roll right in for their debut episode of Monday Nitro. So to kind of really kick it off, George, right off the bat, I have to say WCW was already better than Raw. That opening on TNT for Monday Nitro every Monday night, no pun intended, was just straight fire. I loved the opening of Monday Nitro each and every Monday night. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What was your thoughts on the opening?
I always love that. I always love that Nitro opening.
Yeah.
Same. Like that Nitro theme, in my mind, to use a term that you always like to say, it's evergreen.
Yeah,
It's not
man.
something that they ever really change. I mean, I think they changed like 2000 when they changed like when
It was
they
pretty
changed the
bad.
fucking logo.
Yeah.
It was terrible. But like that from like 95 to like early 99, that Nitro theme was like it's ingrained.
It is. It for sure. So this debut took place in the middle of the big build to Fall Brawl, which was a War Games match headlined that pay-per-view. Hulk Hogan's team faced a Dungeon of Doom. Hogan's team for this was obviously himself, Savage, Sting, and Vader. But obviously that would change before the event. The Dungeon of Doom was complete though. They added 3 new members first. The former Avalanche became the Shark. He went from a natural disaster to just this big mammal.
To a white
shark. The gimmick, change included biting his opponents because now he's a man-eater. Then Meng left Colonel Parker and joined the dungeon. Complete fit. The bonus package included a cool mask and a golden spike he used on his opponents. So he did the golden spike way before it was cool with Umaga. So take that.
To be fair, Meng didn't need to do that.
No, he didn't at all.
He would just rip your throat out and then look at you like, "Oh, you got blood on me."
Yep. And then finally, the Giant we previously saw join the group. He confronted Hogan and threw a white shirt at him. The Giant asked Hogan if he recognized it. Hogan did, despite it being a plain white shirt. It belonged to Andre the Giant. Okay.
Sure it did.
Sure. WCW portrayed the Giant, which is, we know, the Big Show, Paul White, as Andre's son. No resemblance whatsoever. Hogan then took a trip to the Dungeon's cave and confronted the Taskmaster. Rest in peace, by the way, Kevin Sullivan. The Giant burst through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man and choked out the Hulkster. He called himself the one true immortal. Look, I guess it was an okay build, but when we get to the end of Monday Nitro, which we'll get into, it's like that doesn't even exist because of when we see Lex Luger and Hogan in the ring at the end of Nitro, and it's like, all right, cool, we'll just completely abandon this entire build to one of our big pay-per-views.
Sweet.
So, looking at this, George, as we get to the beginning, we see the opening and we see them live in the Mall of America. I know it's made fun of today, the whole debut episode being in Mall of America, but may I just say, about 30 years later, watching it, I think it's pretty cool, don't you think?
It's a smart idea because you're holding it in the Mall of America, the biggest mall in America at the time. Probably still is, unless the American Dream passed them, but I don't know if they did or not. Mm-hmm. Because at the Mall of America, like, you don't have to get a ticket to watch the show. Mm-hmm. You could just be walking along, just casually shopping, and then all of a sudden there's Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair.
Yep.
Are in the ring, and you're like, oh well, all right, let me just stop and watch this. These are people I recognize.
Yeah, let me go over there. There's Hulk in front of a banner where he's eating spaghetti.
Yeah. You're telling, it's like, wow, there's a pasta restaurant in this mall. Is that Hulk Hogan?
Do you believe the rumor that the first Nitro being at the Mall of America was based on a promotion that, for Pasta Mania? Like, this is why it was there.
Fucking sure.
I mean, I can definitely see Hulk saying, how about we have the first Nitro where Pasta Mania is going, dude?
Considering how, like, Bischoff never really said no to Hogan, it honestly wouldn't shock me if this was all like one giant Hogan ploy. And we know how he likes to wield his power around like a kid with his dad's gun. Like, he's gonna make any suggestion he can to make himself look better. We know Hogan's MO at this point. It's all about making him the bigger star and how he can make more money.
Right, for sure.
It's probably losing his shirt on this fucking beer, though.
Eric Bischoff welcomes everybody to the first episode of Nitro. He's with former NFL player, now rightful Hall of Famer Steve Mongo McMichael. And then he's joined by Bobby the Brain Heenan. Um, what are your thoughts? What's your opinion on that trio? And
Love.
as you would,
First of all, Heenan.
yeah,
Yeah, I've never had anything negative to say about Heenan. I will say there were times throughout Nitro's run where he felt kind of out of place because he always does well when he's got someone to banter with and to like
yeah,
put down at the same time.
right,
You know, like how we did with Monsoon and everybody else over the years. So I mean, like he would sit there and like go at Mongo every now and then. It's like, oh, like this feels like Heenan. Mongo, I didn't really know of him, and I think he's a better wrestler than he is commentator, which that's not exactly saying much. I mean,
right,
Mongo's fun to watch in the ring because you know something's gonna get messed up at some point. And Bischoff. I mean, it's Bischoff. They made a smart move when they brought in Shivani.
right.
Bischoff is not a good play-by-play man.
So, were you not a fan of Bobby Heenan with Shivani at all?
I liked Heenan with Shivani, but there were times where because of I guess the way WCW did things, Heenan kind of felt out of place.
Right.
Like you're used to hearing Heenan kind of go at Monsoon every time Monsoon said something, and like he wouldn't really do the same with Shivani. He'd be like your typical color man.
Yeah.
And then the 3-man booth was not really something I was too keen on though. I'll be honest with you on that one.
Oh no, I agree with you. I even to this day I'm not a fan of a 3-man booth at all, like whatsoever.
In any sport, honestly.
I agree. It's 2 is perfectly fine for me. All right, first match we get here in the Nitro era is Flying Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger. This match went right at 6 minutes with Flying Brian getting the pinfall. I guess this was almost like a sign of things to come, George. It actually of what WCW was really known for, creating that cruiserweight division here in the States. And this was almost just a precursor to what we were going to be seeing over the next few years, just dialed up to 10. So what was your opinion on the opener here and these two performers?
It was a good match. I mean, you won't really see a bad match when you got Pillman and Jushin Thunder Liger in it. I mean, Jushin Thunder Liger, probably one of the top 3 cruiserweights of all time,
for sure.
I mean, I think Rey Mysterio is a clear number 1 across the board, and Jushin Thunder Liger, he could be 2 or 3 on a good day,
for sure.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. So there's really. I thought it was a great way to introduce people into this new style of wrestling that you're not seeing on the other show. Like they weren't doing this on Raw.
Yeah, not even
not even close. No. ECW barely had a TV deal at this point.
Right,
barely even a company.
I mean, I can tell you what, the crowd there at the mall loved it. I mean, they were all into it. I will say though, it was not as good. I want people to go back to Super Brawl 2 and watch Liger versus Pillman. That's a much better match than this one.
Well,
Granted, they got more time.
like 6. Yeah, I mean they got like 6 minutes here, so
it's one of those things where you go out and get your shit in and go.
Yeah, basically. Much.
So after this, we come back and we get over to Pasta Mania. We get to see a nice, fun interview with Bischoff and Hulk Hogan here, where they're just probably asking fans to just run up and go as crazy as you possibly can.
Yeah. I want you guys to go crazy for pasta.
I want Hogan's, signing autographs somehow.
He's using pasta sauce.
He's using dingle hoppers to sign autographs.
He's spelling out Hulk Hogan with one long strand of spaghetti that's been dipped in that red water that they probably call sauce. They're not using Don Pepino's at Pasta Mania. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Eric Bischoff brings up how Michael Jordan, Don Shula have restaurants, and now Hogan has Pasta Mania. What a great comparison. So,
actual fucking real champions.
It's just hilarious. Hulk doesn't even pay attention to what Bischoff says, and Hulk's asking the fans who the greatest wrestler ever is. I'm sure he bribed them all with free angel hair so they all could say Hulk Hogan.
Or at least a little ZD.
Yeah. So, you know, they're trying to talk about his match coming up with Big Bubba, which everyone probably knows him as the Big Boss Man.
Everyone knows him as the Big Boss Man.
Exactly.
No
He
one's like,
finished
Big Bubba became the Big Boss Man. Like, no one's saying that.
right. So
Only Jim Cornette.
He finishes the promo by asking Bubba what he will do when Pasta Mania runs wild on him. And, you know, he lied because at the end of this match, there was no sign of pasta anywhere.
None.
So,
There was he didn't bring a pot of sauce into the ring.
Nothing.
He didn't
throw meatballs at him.
He didn't, rub a handful of fettuccine in his face. Just a complete letdown. Minus 5 stars.
It was just so uncomfortable to watch 30 years, later, seeing, knowing what we know now about just the cheesiness of Hogan and Bischoff's relationship at this time.
Do you see that clip that I sent you guys from, I guess, when he was on the Gawker trial?
Oh, yeah.
And like the one prosecutor asked him, was like, is it true on tape that you mentioned the size of your penis? And he's like, well, it's not mine. It's Hulk Hogan's. It's like, and then the prosecutor was confused. He's like, what?
It's entertainment, pal.
Fucking goon, man.
Hulk Hogan's penis is larger than life. Terry Bollea's penis, it's just the penis.
It's 5 at maximum. Hulk Hogan's is a 23-inch python.
Hulk Hogan's is like dropping a leg, brother. So next match here is actually pretty gigantic in terms of the history between these two guys. It's a U.S. title match. Sting coming in as the champ versus the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Leading up to this match, Ric Flair did have a falling out with his Four Horsemen compadre Arn Anderson. They lost a handicap match to Vader at the Clash of Champions, and Flair just went ballistic. Arn said Hogan got under Ric's skin and drove him crazy, but Arn wanted his old friend back. But doing that meant he had to teach Flair a lesson. So they booked a match between the two of them for the pay-per-view coming up at Fall Brawl. Mongo, who's singing the praises here of Flair and Sting, he says, if you're not watching this, you might as well watch, and then doesn't say anything. So I noticed this, and I'm thinking, God, this is so bad.
That's like vintage Mongo. Just forget what you were saying mid-sentence.
Oh, it's so good. So after this is now, here we go. This is the first shot over the bow of the Monday Night Wars. And if anything comes out of this pay-per-view, besides the fact that we got to see Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake later on, we saw the very beginning of, thank God we didn't have social media back then, but we saw the real beginning of that war between these two companies, that, wow, there really is that alternative to the WWF. We thought it was only Hogan that was the kind of guy that would do that at this time. But, Flair and Sting, they're in the ring. Sting just got done his entrance, and walking down the aisle, or, walking down the food court of the
in front of the Great Train Store
is Lex Luger, who a week ago,
I'm surprised he didn't have a Cinnabon in his hand.
I know.
I would have.
No way Lex Luger is eating a Cinnabon in 1995.
Excuse me.
Yeah, right.
That Cinnabon's lace, sir. There's Annabelle in that.
I was about to say it's a Cinnabol.
Absolutely.
So, here comes Lex Luger, and I have to give Eric Bischoff credit. He sells this very well, saying, what's he doing here? I don't recall. I have to go back and say, did he say Luger?
No, I don't know if he actually says that. I think
he just demanded him to get off camera.
I think Mongo says his name, but the thing is, and going back and listen to it, and I didn't watch this the first time in 1995, so I really am just watching this through nostalgia goggles. But when Bischoff does the whole, what's he doing here? Get the camera off him. He's selling it. But I am also 100% aware that Bischoff is trying to act like he's shocked.
Yeah, right.
Like it's very like he sounds like he saw a video of somebody being shocked once, and he's like, I'm gonna sound like
that. Yes, I think that's probably how it went. Obviously, Mongo probably barely knows who this is. Luger stares at both Sting and Flair. Sting acknowledges him, as we all know. Even at this time, Sting and Luger are real best friends. Here comes the famed and the best security man in the biz, Doug Dillinger. Comes over and makes Luger leave.
Almost as good as the jacked guy with the backwards Kangol hat from the Attitude Era.
Oh, yes. You're absolutely spot on.
I don't know his name, but you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely. The dude wore like a schmedium, and he was about 265 pounds. So after 8 minutes and 45 seconds, Sting, I guess it's no contest, or does Sting get the win here?
It was a no contest.
It was a no contest, right?
Yeah.
But it's a no contest. Again, 8 minutes and 40 seconds. The main part of getting this match in the ring was to introduce Lex Luger. But what was your opinion and your review of the match?
My opinion, and I said this to you, Sting was on that good shit.
Sting was in good shape.
Sting, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna tell you that wasn't natural because we know it wasn't.
Correct.
We know who he used to roll around with, and he probably had some leftovers left from that. And I mean, Sting was he was looking a hell of a lot more jacked than we're gonna see him in later years.
Yeah.
I don't mean like later years, like TNA. I mean like within like the next year.
Right.
Like Sting's already like slimmed and toned down and got off the shit.
Yeah.
So, that's probably why he started wearing the longer singlet to actually cover up his chest, because he lost like the muscle mass, which it doesn't matter because that's to me that's Sting anyway.
Agreed.
I know a lot of people hold Surfer Sting to a high regard. I'm not gonna poo-poo that. I love Surfer Sting too, but to me personally, it's like the long singlet Sting. That's my guy. But I was also shocked with this because you got these two guys who are basically like they bleed WCW and they're fighting for the United States title. At this point, they're both former world champions and they're fighting for the mid-card title.
Right. And look, and as we just kind of talked about, this was a truncated version of the usual match. It still had, good. They got their stuff in, right? You got to see the Sting stuff, the Flair stuff. But again, it was a backdrop to what they were trying to accomplish here. And it's understandable. It served its purpose. And it got the introduction to Lex Luger. So looking back at that now, George, like how important was the arrival of Lex Luger here?
It was massive. There was no internet.
Right.
Nobody knew. So if you just have to be watching Raw on a regular basis, and then you decide to check out this Monday Nitro and see what that's about, and you see Lex Luger walk out, and you're like, wait a minute, he works for the other company.
Yeah.
What's he doing here? Like, this is like, you're confused, but you're intrigued at the same time because you're like, wait a minute, well, if he's here, is anybody else coming over? Is WCW its own company, or are they working with WWF? We don't. You don't know. I mean, now the internet. I mean, I would love to be out of the loop,
right,
on a lot of shit. But unfortunately, with every dirt sheet in the world making fucking nickels to a penny on their horse shit, we're constantly in the know of everything that's going on.
Right,
and it makes me long for these times where you get a genuine surprise reaction out of yourself or other fans.
Mm-hmm. After the bell, Arn just beats the crap out of Flair. The two brawl to the floor. The fight continues down the aisle until, again, pulling double duty, Doug Dillinger stopped them with another guy. I think it was Randy Anderson who helped out. So Flair, of course, was able to run off. And then we get an appearance by the great Scott Norton, who interrupts the broadcast with some sort of importance, I guess, on his end, saying that he signed a contract.
Biggest thing he ever did in his fucking career.
I'm sure Dean was all over this.
He's about to comment right now. Well, fuck you guys. Scott Norton's the best wrestler in the world.
And then we get a promo or a vignette on an upcoming Nitro show where we're going to see the great Sabu, and what a phenomenal video of botches that they showed.
His video package was all from the same match. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did.
It was like highlights from like one match that he had.
Yeah. It was
this is a very short-lived run in WCW for Sabu. Because I don't remember him being WCW at all.
Well, he was probably upset that they weren't paying him in cocaine, so he was like, "You know what? I'm out of here."
Or not enough cocaine.
Or not enough, right?
Excuse me, you promised me 3 8-balls. This is 1.
After next, Eric, after we get back from commercial, we have Bischoff plugging Saturday Night Show. Johnny B. Bad, of course, will face Dick Slater. Sting and Savage will face the Blue Bloods. Also, they will give Fall Brawl updates. And then we get to another promo here where the former IRS, Erwin R. Scheister, the dad of the late, great Bray Wyatt, he's no longer
He's
also
IRS.
The
dad of Uncle Howdy.
That's correct. He's no longer IRS, ladies and gentlemen. The creative geniuses at the Turner Network and inside WCW came up with a new gimmick.
Yeah,
Michael Wall Street is now who IRS is. Within a week, though, they did change his name to VK Wall Street. I wonder what that is.
But then he eventually goes back to Michael Wall Street.
Yeah, it's so weird. Use that as a shots fired reference, I'm sure.
I've got it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
This whole his whole promo is shots fired.
Yes. He talks about he came to WCW because the biggest names are there. I'm just going to call him IRS because that's what I know him as. IRS talks about jokes that the IRS will watch him closely. I see what they did there. He calls himself a real player as the promo ends. So that was.
He also said that he's like, oh, people always talk about the new generation. It's like, oh, here we fucking go.
Yeah.
Like, it's like because you hear it so much now through the two companies now, with the one constantly always taking the shot. It's like, like now it's like I'm hearing it again, but like you're hearing it for the first time. It's like, oh, this is pretty cool. But at the same time, you're like, motherfucker, like again. But this was a legitimate, like this is WCW, like sticking a foothold, and they're like, we're gonna make a name for ourselves as a top player. I mean, WCW did exist for several years before Nitro. That's what a lot of people seem to forget. Like they didn't just jump on the scene with Nitro and then that was it. Like no, WCW Saturday Night existed for the longest fucking time.
For sure, absolutely. Let's get to the main event here. We understand probably why Big Bubba Rogers is the opponent here on the first Nitro for Hogan, because Hogan's all about what he already knew, what he became famous for. So he's not going to go in there with flying Brian Pillman or anything like that. He's going to go and make sure.
You'll never see Hogan in the ring with fucking Pillman.
Right. So, we had to make sure that Hogan had somebody he was very comfortable working with. And that, of course, is.
And also wasn't going to outshine him in the ring.
Correct. Absolutely. So it makes sense why this matchup's going on. He always talked about how much he loved working with Boss Man. It's funny.
Boss Man's a safe worker.
Ron Traylor was amazing.
Ray Traylor, not Ron.
I'm sorry, Ron Traylor. I'm reading something about with a guy named Ron. Ray Traylor. Correct. Then during the introductions, we confirm for the next Nitro, Norton will face Randy Savage. Just a barn burner. Make sure everybody checks that out. We'll talk about that next week. At the end here, Hogan, of course, gets the win at just over 7 minutes at the drop in the big leg. But I guess the notable part here of this match is, after this all after the match ends, the Dungeon of Doom rushes the ring. Hogan, of course, fends everyone off with the help of the new member, the guy who was going to become the next Hulk Hogan over to WWF, Mr. Lex Luger. I wonder if he drove the Lex Express to the building. That would have been really cool.
Probably not. I think he still left it over on the USS Intrepid.
So he looks shocked to that Luger's even there. Hogan gets in Lex's face and demands to know why he's there. He tells Luger to go back where he came from.
And then Bischoff reiterates it to us.
Right. And then oddly enough, they go to a commercial for Fall Brawl.
But they also and the commercial, it made me laugh a little bit because they were like, because they said that it was like, Hulk Hogan teams up with Randy Savage and Sting and Vader. It takes him to fight muscular dystrophy. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, is this a new group in WCW that I never heard of?
Right.
And then you get like that serious Randy Savage, like, oh, we're gonna fight for all my little buds here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were facing the Dungeon of Doom.
They return from their just random commercial Fall Brawl. In the ring is Mean Gene's with Luger, Hogan, Savage, Sting, and Jimmy Hart. Hogan says Luger doesn't belong in this backyard. Lex responds that he's there because everyone calls Hogan the best wrestler in the world. I'm not sure where Luger's getting his information from.
Probably his dealer.
That's rude.
His steroid dealer.
Luger says he's there to take the belt. Hogan tries responding, but Luger interrupts. He says he's been down the same roads and beaten the same people as Hogan. I do not remember Lex beating Andre. That's a lie.
Yes. I don't remember Lex beating King Kong Bundy
at all.
Ever.
Yeah.
Even having a match together. I'm sure that's a dark match somewhere, but
yeah.
Yeah.
He's so sick of playing with kids. Weird comment. He's there to play with the big boys.
He's there to play with the big boys.
Comment.
It's where the big boys play. They said it all goddamn night.
I know. But it's okay because he was really kind of done playing with kids. So we're at least
he's done playing with kids.
Yeah.
So don't worry, guys.
He wants a title match. Hogan sings Luger's praises, but he says the Hulkamaniacs are behind him. Hogan tells Lex he doesn't have to wait until next week. If he sticks out his pinky palm, he'll shake his hand.
His stinky, that stinking paw.
So awful. Yeah. Like, did Hogan even hear himself?
This promo between both of them was the worst thing I have ever heard. Ever. In terms of a promo.
But I will say though, that might have been Luger's best promo of his career.
Because I like how Hogan goes, you don't have to wait till next week, but then it's like next week we have Luger and Hogan. It's like, ridiculous. But he does have to wait till next week.
I know. Bischoff hypes next week's episode. Mongo says you'll have a screw loose if you don't watch. It's a great job. That's wonderful, Mongo. Thank you very much.
My man, Mongo.
My man. So yeah, man. So look, the good of the show, obviously Pillman and Liger was fun. Sting and Flair was good for the sake of what it introduced and what it started. The Luger surprise was probably the best part of the entire night when you look back at it. And really, they did a constant job of hype and Fall Brawl and the next episode of Monday Nitro. What was your good and what was your bad?
My good, I mean, obviously it was Pillman and Liger. They did they did a great job of hyping up the show to me. Something like, hey, we're going to be around for a while. You don't want to miss what's going to come next week. Constant hyping, which, I mean, this is the first episode, so you expect a lot of hype because you want to get that following. You want to make sure people are watching, so that way you get renewed and you get that. See, that's how TV works. They want you to keep coming back. That's television 101. I don't even work in the industry, but I know if you want your show to succeed, you need to draw your people in so they want to watch week after week after week.
You should tell Tony Khan that.
Listen, hey, I was going to make the joke, but now I don't even have to. Thanks, Christopher.
You're welcome. I know you.
You're doing your part.
I know I am. I have to do something, right?
And here I am. I'm probably going to be late to Raw because we're recording this on a Monday. But that's all right. Nope. That's fine. That's fine. But I'll tell you,
about to end.
I will say there were a couple weird things I noticed, and I want to bring them up to you and see if you picked up on it.
Sure.
During Hogan's match, when he got to his end and he was doing his Hulk up and his usual nonsense, like when he did the Hulk up and he stood up and had the finger, the crowd was fucking silent.
Absolutely.
They were silent for the big boot. for the leg drop. They cheered a little bit for the pin, but this was like, I mean, we knew Hogan was had his downside, in '93 when we heard over in WWF.
Yeah.
And then when he came over to WCW, obviously big pop, big things, in 1994. But even like now, like a year later, people don't care. I mean, I know it's the Mall of America, and you're not in the arena, you're not drawing in just the wrestling fans. You're basically getting whoever's in the mall. But Hogan's a known name at this point. The dude's been the biggest name in wrestling for the last 10 years. So it was shocking to me for him to do his signature spots and not get a crowd reaction.
Yeah, because I even wrote down here, I said, this is where we started to see on a national stage the decline of popularity of the red and yellow Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
You could just flat out tell that they're just not buying what he's selling anymore.
Yeah. Like it's like we've seen this episode before. Like this is a rerun
now. All right. So what was your favorite moment of this show? By the way, this Monday Nitro drew a 2.5, which is pretty damn good. From what we'll see next week.
Pretty good for 1995.
Very much so. And as we go week by week, you'll see that,
and this is
2.5 is good.
Yeah. And this is right when, this is September 1995. This is right when the fall season's kicking off for network shows too.
Right.
And TV in the 90s, if you're not alive enough to remember, I'm sorry, but it was fucking gold every day. I'm sorry you couldn't be around for any of this. But TV in the 90s, oh my God, it was chef's kiss every night of the week.
Yeah.
You said my favorite part of the show, and because I laughed so hard at it, it was actually at the end when Mongo's holding the dog and he's like chastising his dog. It's like, oh, like never. It's like, you're not going to support the Dungeon of Doom anymore. You're not going to dress like him. And Heenan just casually goes, was he in Ben? And like I laughed because I know what the movie Ben is, or like the song. And then Heenan's like, because he's a rat.
So good.
I laughed so hard at that because I'm a fucking idiot. But
so my favorite moment was either between the promo in front of Pastamania or the debut of Lex Luger. But nonetheless, very, very historic night here on September 4th of 1995. George, how cool was it to go back and watch this and go, man, this was the start of literally the greatest era in professional wrestling history. All right. So
Christopher, did we just drop out real quick?
We may have. Did you hear what I said?
No, my screen, I mean, it didn't go black, but you disappeared and then I disappeared and then I came back.
All right. So what my question was, I'll repeat it for you,
please
was how cool was it to sit there, watch this show and realize, wow, we're watching the birth of the greatest era in wrestling history.
I mean, it's pretty cool in hindsight. Look back, it's like this is how it started. Like
sure.
Raw has already been established for 2.5 years at this point.
Yep,
just about.
Yep.
Yeah, 2.5 because it was January of '93. So Raw was already around. Yep. It was already known. Now here's a legitimate competitor who's got the star power to bring eyes to the screen.
Yes.
And it's so cool to watch. And then just knowing what we know is going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
It's kind of great to see the genesis of it, if you know what
for sure.
And next week is going to be even better when we have the two shows to compare. Yes. I've already watched that that September 11th episode of Raw,
which wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
No,
I mean, it's hard for me to watch anything September 11th related and not laugh to myself.
A little bit, yeah. It was it was cool to see the return of my favorite style of Undertaker, which is the purple and black.
Yeah.
And it was just great to see asshole Shawn Michaels in the ring. Because he was all over the place on that Monday Night Raw. But that was, and
he was all over the place.
Period.
For reasons, for other reasons.
Yeah, right.
A little Soma, a little Sonny. He's feeling pretty good.
Right. So next week we will have two shows to review. We have Monday Nitro and Monday Night Raw, which took place on September 11th, 1995. And then so it begins, the legitimate Monday Night Wars. And based on looking at these ratings for over the next couple weeks here, it was so cool, man. Back and forth every single week. And then who would have thought that it would reach the levels that it did? And we're going to be there to cover it. So if you're
a legit war.
Oh yeah, man. So, all right, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and of course, ring the bell for notifications. Head over to SeatGeek.com right now and use our code ring the bell for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. This is the new home of the Hot Tag Wrestling Show. Looking forward to coming here each and every week to you guys and going over this Monday Night War. Just rewind. It's going to be so cool. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I can't believe it's already here. So George, thank you so very much for joining me tonight. Go enjoy Monday Night Raw. I taped Raw. We're going to go watch some Casino Royale. So
I'm disappointed. Odyssey Jones, because Odyssey Jones has been taken off the road. I don't even know if I even want to watch Raw anymore.
I know. You should watch another episode of Monday Nitro.
No, I think I'm all right. I'll watch Nitro from this week in 1990, in 2000.
Oh, don't do that to yourself now.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody. For George Rogers, I'm Chris C. Francesco, and we'll catch you guys down the road. Have a great one, everybody.